Dr. Jeffrey Boyd. This video is about retired people and the climate. Although young people like Greta Thunberg are leading the climate movement, there are those of us who are 6 decades ahead of her who are still wanting to do something. We don't have near as much energy. I still need a nap many afternoons. I recently joined an organization named Third Act, started by Bill McKibben.
Everyone knows that Exxon and Chevron and Shell are climate criminals. But there's another name that belongs on that most wanted list, Chase Bank. You may think, why is a bank a big driver of the climate crisis? Well, let me tell you. Money is the oxygen on which the fires of global warming burn. If you can cut off that flow of money, it's like cutting off the flow of oxygen to a fire. You can put it out pretty quick.
We have 2 advantages. Number 1, people our age almost all vote, and second, people who are retired control 70% of the financial assets of the United States. We rallied in 102 American cities, not bad, for the first march ever. Here's me carrying my sign saying, "Leave the oil in the ground." When we say to the big banks like Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Citi, when we say to the big banks, "Look, you recently invested $1 trillion in the fossil fuel industry expansion for pipelines and fracking. We demand that you stop that." The big banks are actually afraid of retired people. Do you know that Amazon has a larger carbon footprint because of its cash reserves, which, by the way, it keeps in Chase? That makes a larger carbon footprint than all of the vans and warehouses of Amazon. We mean to embarrass Amazon, Netflix, Google, all the big guys about what they're doing with their cash in terms of the big banks investing that cash in fossil fuels. Do you know that if the big banks were aggregated together to become a nation, they'd be the 4th largest emitter of carbon dioxide in the world? In January 2023, the UN came out with its latest update on the climate called the IPCC report, saying that things are worse than ever. The prognosis for the climate is getting worse. The amount of carbon burned last year was higher than ever before. The profits of the fossil fuels companies maxed out last year, 2022, at $220 billion.
Developing countries are at the front line of this battle.
The people who will suffer the most from this climate crisis are not the ones who loaded all those carbon dioxides into the atmosphere to begin with. It's the opposite. It's the people around the equator who will suffer the most.
But you have to understand this is also a crisis for the world. The fact is that if the poor are suffering today, then the rich will also suffer tomorrow.
Here is what Pope Francis says. There has been a tragic rise in the number of migrants seeking to flee from the growing poverty caused by environmental degradation. Our lack of response to these tragedies involving our brothers and sisters points to the loss of that sense of responsibility for our fellow men and women upon which all civil society is founded. We are led inexorably to ask the pointed question, what is the purpose of our life in this world? Why are we here? Now, no matter how you answer that question about what is the purpose of your life, I can pretty much guarantee that you did not say that the purpose of life is to maximize the profit of the fossil fuel companies. I, by the way, am a retired physician, psychiatrist, but before I went to medical school, I was and am an ordained Episcopal minister. My core identity is that I am a servant of God.
that the world came together in Paris in 2015 to sign this big climate accord. It was the moment when we were going to begin taking on the greatest crisis humans have ever faced. Well, since that was signed, banks like Chase have dramatically increased their lending to the fossil fuel sector. And much of the money is going for precisely the worst kind of projects, the ones that scientists say we have to get rid of first. Tar sands in Canada, the extreme deep water drilling, looking for oil up in the Arctic. This is the stuff we simply can't afford to keep doing as a planet. A bank like Chase is a big player, not a small one. Look, they're a carbon giant. They're one of the brands around this planet that is directly responsible for the fact that the temperature is going up.
The new Chase headquarters in Manhattan is a building that will emit no greenhouse gases. By building such a remarkable net zero skyscraper, Chase is trying to distract us from the criminal way in which it invests its money. I'm Jeff Boyd. Thank you very much for your attention.